Welcome back. Well, Chip's Corner this weekend. Chip took some time off. Next best thing, Shaun Haney, a frequent traveler when it comes to Agri-Talk on the show Friday for the Fridays free-for-alls. You're based in Canada, Shaun. A lot of talk right now, a lot of nervousness on what's going to happen with trade, both China, Mexico, as well as Canada. But I want to know, what is the sentiment in Canada right now with President-elect Donald Trump, and what are the concerns, and what are kind of some of the positives heading into this second Trump administration?
Well, I think one of the big things is uncertainty. There's a lot of, we know from the first Trump administration, the playbook is a lot of threat, a lot of noise, big time bark. The question is now, how stiff will the bite be? What will the Trump administration be looking from other countries, not just Canada, Mexico, China for sure. I think there's a lot of, that's really in question here right now. We're not going to know probably till after January 20th. We've already seen world leaders, France, Canadian Prime Minister Trudeau going to Mar-a-Lago and saying, hey, what do we need to do? Kiss the ring, so to speak, which is one thing we saw in the first Trump administration was really appreciated. So we're off to a hot start. We haven't even had inauguration yet.
Yeah, that was not on my bingo card for 2024, was Trudeau heading to Mar-a-Lago, but here we are. You actually, though, did a survey of some of your listeners in Canada leading into the election to see which one they thought would be more favorable heading in. What did you find out?
What we found is that about half the Canadian farmers said, I'm not sure, or they're both about the same. The other thing we found was 38% saying Kamala Harris would have been better for Canadian agriculture, 17% saying President-elect Donald Trump. That was about a week before the election. Well, now we have President-elect Donald Trump. We're going to have to see if those 17% are right. Some of the reasons why they chose President Trump for those people was the fact they like his economic policy, they like his stance on the environment, and what could happen when it comes to energy policy, which also relates back to things like fertilizer prices.
USMCA, it sounds like we are going to take another look at that. Canadian agriculture, I mean, there's a lot of contention right now about dairy and U.S. dairy and access into Canada. But do you think that the administration in Canada is willing to take another look at that trade agreement?
Well, I think there's always room for improvement. They're going to have to, let's be honest. The U.S. is the cog of that trade agreement. And I think it's also important, though, Canada's problems are not Mexico's problems. Even though a couple weeks ago on the Tuesday, when President-elect Trump threatened 25% tariffs on Canada and on Mexico, he referenced fentanyl and he referenced illegal immigration. Well, if you look at the numbers, Canada, the flow of either of those into the U.S. is significantly less than Mexico. We've already seen the Canadian government talk about separating itself from Mexico because their problems are not Mexico's. So that's going to be interesting. Does Canada try to cut out Mexico in terms of renegotiation? Mexico's President Shaun has already indicated she's not very happy about Canada's words.
Real Agriculture, Shaun Haney, thank you so much for joining us. All right, we need to take a quick break, and then it is a legacy on a dairy farm, a century in the works. We'll have that story next.